Okay, everybody, I want to explain to you how I make a spoiler for the rear of my prostock car. I was going to make one for the Corvette body, and I thought, hey, why not record it? Because there might be some people out there that have never seen one before. So, got a couple different views. Got this camera, we got this one up here, so hopefully I can show it all to you. That's the one I've been running. It's a pretty simple piece, just 3 pieces of lexan, but may as well show you how I cut it and what I do with it. So we'll start with that. I get these sheets of lexan. You can get them from Rudis Motorsports, RUDIS dash Motorsports, or just about any place that sells polycarbonate or lexan. I believe this is a 30 thick. Yeah, it's just about a 1 mil thick piece. And so this is a little thinner than what I like, but for the 1-cell car, it's okay. You're not developing so much downforce off of that car that you need a really stiff, strong rear spoiler. So there's 3 basic pieces to the spoiler. There's the rear deck lid section, this section here, and then there's the side pieces, which obviously are basically the same 2 pieces. So set that over there. What I'll do is the rear deck lid piece I'll cut first. Now, I love to have a nice clean edge because I'll make that my tailing edge on my spoiler, and I know it's square. So about 1.5 inches is what I want depth-wise on it. So we'll go out to 1.5 inches here on our calipers. Pretty close to. We'll tighten them down. And then what I do is just take this. Now I'll pull it right to the edge of the table. I don't know if you're getting this now. It's not really on camera. What I'll do is I'll pull this to the edge of the table so I have support on it. But I'll set the edge of my caliper against there, and then I'll just lightly drag it, and it'll scar the plastic. Can you see that little scrape in there? See that there? So it's in there, trust me. Now, I should measure how wide this thing is, and I'm going to go a little long because the way it's rounded and all that. So we're just going to cut it about right there. Whatever that is, I'll make a little mark there. Because I'm going to make a final trim on this piece anyways, so I'll cut into it there. That should give me plenty of excess. And then I'm going to cut right down my line. My line I scratched. You can kind of see it here. I'll try to mark it. The point of that is just to give you a good reference of what you're going to cut down. So we'll cut right down that line. Now, of course, when you're not being filmed, then you can take your time and make sure you do this really, really well, as straight as possible. All those kindergarten tests and cutting are going to pay off on this stuff. Finally, school pays off. So there's my rear deck lid piece. That's going to go on here. I'll show you how we'll bend it and all that for it. Now we're going to cut out 2 pieces to use for our sides. Now, I like my pieces. I have some already cut here. About 3 inches long for this car, and I'll show you where 3 inches is on here. Pretty much right there. So I'm gonna start it right on this line where the rear deck lid begins. That's where my piece is going to be attached, and you can see it hangs off about 1 inch, and that's what I want. About 1 inch, 1.25 inches I want off the back. I don't really want it too far off the back. I want to be able to support it on the body. You can make a really long one, but it's not doing as much because there's not as much support on the body to hold it together. So 3 inches is what I want on my links. So I basically need a 6-inch piece that we can cut for 2 of them. And there's a good chance that my wing piece was that. Yeah, it was 6 inches. So now the height I want these is, let's see what we got here. Yeah, we're about 1.5 inches high. So let's get the body out of the way. So we're going to run it to 1.5 inches. I'm going to do the same move. I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to hook the tip of the caliper over it and just drag it down there. Give myself a pretty straight edge. Now these, luckily enough, I'm going to be trimming all over them, so I don't care if I don't have that perfect edge like I do on the rear of the spoiler, because I'm going to cut and sand these, and you'll see. So we'll cut down that line that I just scraped in it, about 6 inches. Now you can go longer on them, and some people do. It's just all in preference of what you want and what you like the car to look like. So we'll cut that piece off. So I don't need my lexan anymore. So I've got this piece. Now it's just kind of a jagged piece, but I'm just going to cut it in half and put them both together. It should be about 3 inches. Okay, so there's my 2 pieces. Now, like I said, I didn't cut them very accurately, so I'll just trim this excess off so they match, because I don't need that. So here's my 3 pieces I need for my rear spoiler. Pretty simple 3 pieces. So I'll take these 2 pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'll go over to the sander, and I'm going to sand these and get them really square, and I'm going to sand a rounded spot here. Now, I want a shape of a little bit of curve, and luckily enough, for whatever reason, my iPhone is a really good edge. It has the right radius that I want on there. So I'll slide that into my phone like that, and I'll simply make a little line around it like that. And I'll take my curved Kyosho scissors, and I'll cut it. And you can see now I've got a nice curve to it. And that's going to sit right on the side of the body, down like that. It gives me plenty of spoiler to attach it to the body. I'll use shoe goo to glue it onto the body. And so I have 2 of those same. So now that I've got the curve that I want on here, I'm going to take the other one, I'm going to match it up, I'm going to line it, I'm going to cut it and trim them and get them all square. And so let me run over real quick to the sander, and I'll do that, and I'll be right back. I think I will. And through the magic of TV, dun-dun-dun, here we go. I've got 2 of them. Can you see them? They're clear now because I peeled the cover off them. Now my rear piece, it's flat, as you can see. And so I want a little kick up in it. And what I made a long time ago, was I made myself a little brake board. And it's just a piece of L aluminum on aluminum sheet with 2 bolts in it. And so what I can do with that is I can actually I can mark my piece. I can slide it in here like that. I can clamp it down, and then I can just bend this how much ever I want. A full 90, a little 14, 20, whatever degree I want I can bend. And so that's what I do with that, and I end up with this. You see it there? I'll show you there on this one maybe. So see, I've got a nice little edge to it, nice little kink right down the side of it. And that's exactly what I want. So these, what I'll do is I'm going to go paint them now. I like them to be black, or you can leave them clear, however you want to do it, but I'm going to paint these black. And then I'm going to shoe goo it, one on like that, right onto the side, and then this across the rear deck lid like that. And you'll begin to see what it looks like. Maybe we will pause it, and I'll finish them off for you. Okay, we are back, and we have our spoiler pieces painted and dried. I just did them in a nice flat black to make them simple. Now, how we put them on the body. This is how I do it. Some people will punch in rivets and all that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of goop. You can buy this at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of your kind of home goods place. It's called goop or amazing goop. It's just a clear silicone glue adhesive, and I've used it to mount servos down, to hold in receivers. It's a really good product if you've never used it before, to hold items into your car or to even repair sections of a car. The nice thing about the servos and the receivers or a speed control is it's very strong. It holds them in place really well, but if you slip a screwdriver just between the surface of the 2 items and pry a tiny bit, as soon as the bond is broken, it'll peel right off like a rubber band, and it's pretty easy to deal with. So I've been using goop for many, many, many years to glue things together. Another thing I found that's good with goop as a side note is if you get cracks in the edges or wheel wells of your bodies, if you take some of this and smear it in there, it'll really hold the cracks together and make the body much more durable. So goop. So we're going to take with some goop. And this one is a little bit used, as you can tell. Let me get a fresh spot of it here. So I'll take and I'll just smear a little bit of this all the way across my rear spoiler. Not too much because it's going to squish out everywhere. So I'll take that and I'm going to place that on the rear of my car, my deck lid. Now I've trimmed it and kind of pre-fit it so I know it's the right width. So I'll put that on there and get it pretty straight. Now this little bit that's on there, I can actually trim and peel off a little bit of goop that's coming out. But once it dries, it's pretty hard to even notice. And I'll take a piece of masking tape. Once I have this centered the way I want it to be, and it's square, and it looks really square, I've already marked it. So when I did it on here, I could do it pretty easily and quickly. And I'll take a piece of tape, a little bit smaller piece of tape, and I'll just lay it right on that flat edge. And just apply a little bit of pressure, just enough to hold it in place. The goop will do the job from there. So there's my rear spoiler. It's now mounted. You can see it. Okay. So all we have left are the side dams. Now, I like to put the spoiler on first because what I'm going to do is, usually when I put a spoiler on, I make the bend in it. It's the maximum that I'm probably going to ever run the downforce angle on the rear of that. So from here, once it's dried, I'll probably bend it a lot flatter and then I'll move it up as I feel I need to. But that's as much as I think I want to use. So what I do with these is I will line them up so that it's sitting, so that the peak of the side dam and the peak of the rear spoiler meet right at the end like that. It's kind of what I'm shooting for. And that is about the height I want of my side dam. So I'm going to do the same thing here. If I can get this body to sit sideways for me. Maybe not. Let's try that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of repeat the same process I did with the rear spoiler. I'm going to apply a little bit of the goop on here. Doesn't take too much of this stuff. It holds it in place. The nice thing too is it tends to stay on and crashes and flips, but if you want to, you can peel it and it'll come right off. And you know, if they get broken or tore up, that's always nice. So I'm going to set that in there with the goop on it, and that should hold it in place for the minute that I want to mess with it. Now one side, the first side, is easy to deal with because you're kind of free to put it wherever you want to put it. The second side now, I'll have to make sure I align it to this side. So now that that's on there, basically how I want it, which I want it a little flatter, like that. Like I said, I'm going to bend this rear spoiler down a lot. It's way higher than what I want. When I make my first bend, I just make a big strong bend in it so I can use it from there. So that's where I want the side dam. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tape that in place to sit for an hour or so. Put one across the bottom. Remember, this is just to hold it in place. Doesn't have to be too strong. So there's my side dam. Now I know, like we talked about, it's much lower, but imagine this piece is going to be down like that. So they'll sit really nice together. So let all these dry for a couple hours, and I'll add the other side dam. I'll add the other side dam here, and tape it and glue it in place, and repeat the same thing. Amazing goop. And now I'm just going to try to align it as best I can by sight. You should be able to get it pretty darn straight. That's pretty much what I'm looking at. This body's really rounded in the back, so it's kind of putting my side dams in at an angle. It's kind of knocking them in like that. So that's just what it's going to do, and I'll deal with it once they dry. I can do some better trimming. And I messed around with that one sliding down now, so we're going to have to reposition it again before I tape it. And again, the same thing. I'm just going to get this in the position I want. Put a couple little pieces of masking tape just to hold it down. And hold it against the body so the glue can adhere. And that's pretty much it. Although this one, I'm going to bring this one up a little bit now. Now that I look at it. And that's the nice thing about this stuff is it takes a little bit of time for it, so you've got time to mess around with it a little bit. Okay. So how's that look? It's all taped in place. It's fairly even. Looks good to me. So we're going to leave that for a couple hours and let it dry. And when we come back, we should have a spoiler for the body. So I'll just do a quick flash of time and this will be dry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And, of course, we gave it a little bit of time to dry. So we can peel the tape off now. Just like that. And there it is. Our own homemade spoiler. With side dams. Now, like I said, this body, because it's a little curved, the Corvette body, these kind of want to curve in. I don't know, I kind of like it. I think it looks sort of cool. It'll work fine for the one-sill car. And the longer these sit, the more they'll dry and the stronger they'll get. And that's about it. Also, I guess I should point out, if this body's incredible. And my buddy Matt Hawkinson over at MH Design maybe? I don't know. I know it says CM Design, but I know he changed it. But contact me. This guy laid down this paint job for me. He said, hey, I want to paint a body for you. So if you're into some killer paint work, like hit this guy up or hit me up and I'll get you in contact with him. But there it is. That's how I built the spoiler. It's pretty simple. The car looks awesome. It's all mounted up. I'll probably run this body at our next race because it's incredible. I just don't want to run it because it's so beautiful. I don't want to wreck it, tear it up. So if all you guys out there are going to come join me in my lane and crash into me, then I'm not going to run this body. It's up to you. So there it is. And I hope you got something out of that. Just a quick little video on how to make a rear spoiler for these types of bodies. Super easy, some lexan, some bending, some gluing, and a little while later you have a pretty nice little simple setup. You can trim the sides any way you want beforehand and make them cool shaped or whatever. I just go with a pretty basic shape, and it seems to work. So there it is. Thanks for watching, everybody.